we do want to get some expertise now from former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis. He's with us right now. Ed, thank you so much for sharing part of your weekend with us. As you've heard, officials here in Uvalde have acknowledged that the incident commander made a mistake. He made the wrong decision to not breach the classroom sooner. You've called that an abject failure. I'm wondering, what reasons could you imagine that incident commander would have decided that this was a barricaded suspect situation as opposed to an active shooter scenario?
Good morning, Boris. So these are horrible questions to be looking at in a tragic situation. The chaos of these events and misinformation most likely will play a role in this when all of the facts come out. It's impossible to be definitive about exactly what happened. In a situation like this, the commanding officer should be very close to the scene. We don't know where the chief was at that particular time. We do know a sergeant was on scene in about 10 or 15 minutes. That sergeant should have been in constant contact with the commanding officer to tell that chief exactly what was happening so that he could make good decisions. You'd like to think that the chief was in constant contact with the dispatchers, who frequently have the best information as these situations unfold, so that he could make good decisions. Clearly, good decisions were not made here. And one of the troubling things I see is that police officers arrived there by 12:15 with ballistic shields. And so it still was another 35 minutes before the entry was made. So the timeline needs to be examined. The tapes of the calls and the radio dispatches need to be examined. The commanding officer needs to be interviewed to find out exactly what information he was operating on. And then after all that is determined, we have to look at whether or not the system of allowing someone who might not have the requisite experience here actually run a thing like this. If there's somebody on the scene with tactical experience, there should at least be coordination and communication with that particular individual so that the commander can make good decisions. So there's a lot going on here.
I want to zero in with you on that breakdown in communication, because as we understand it, there were kids inside the classroom that were calling 911, pleading for officers to breach the room, to go in, and some 19 officers were still in the hallway waiting. There were parents out here who said that they could hear children screaming, that they heard gunfire, and yet the incident commander decided that this was, again, a barricaded suspect situation as opposed to an active shooting situation, which led them to wait. What reasons would they have for waiting?
Well, again, we're not certain, but let me try to put this in context as to what it's like standing in the shoes of that commander. That commander is getting information from the radio system. So there are people squawking on the radio about what they're doing and where they're going. At the same time, there are people around the commander feeding them information. And trying to cut through that fog of war is extremely difficult. And then you're pointing out one of the major issues we've had in policing for many years, which is the old-fashioned way we get information to people in the field who are dealing with what's going on. We have a telephone call come in, that goes to a call taker, and then the information is sent to a dispatcher, and then the dispatcher sends that information out into the field over the radio. There's no reason in this day and age why we can't get that actual caller in touch with the people that are actually in the field. And we've talked about this for decades, but we've never been able to solve that. So some of these issues that are being pointed out might be able to be solved by technology. It's time for a solid look at that. That commander is getting way too much information. There's an overload of incoming information, and clearly something happened that he wasn't able to cut through to the core of what was going on here. The bottom line is this: if you're in a situation where you've secured everything and then you start to hear gunfire again, there's no excuse not to move immediately.
Ed, I do want to ask you about something that a parent told the New York Times, a parent of one of the victims. Said, quote, "We live in this really small town in this red state, and everyone keeps telling us, you know, that it's not the time to be political, but it is. It is. Don't let this happen to anybody else." They go on. "Our baby wanted to be a lawyer. She wanted to make a difference." This is Miss Rubio, the mother of one of the children that was killed. "Please make sure she makes one now." Do you agree? Is it time to be political with this tragedy, with what just happened, given that parents in this community are calling for it?
I've heard those statements, Boris, and I'm telling you they're pathetic. A political fix is what's needed here. We need to have a law that tightens up and puts realistic controls over people who are trying to get their hands on thousands of rounds of ammunition and weapons of war who may have psychological problems. The idea that this is political is a ridiculous statement. Of course it's political. We need a politician to pass a law. And I bristle when I hear this after seeing bodies of children in a school. It's insanity.